University of Richmond lost 4 alums and 4 family members of alums. As each name is read, a candle will be lit and a bell will toll in their honor. Creative goodness. We lift before you the events of 10 years ago. We remember the images and emotions, the people we were with, the words that were spoken, the tenderness expressed, and the comfort shared. We remember the families of all who lost loved ones. We remember students and alumni whose communities were most affected. We remember soldiers and other military personnel serving in faraway places. We remember the leaders of this country and leaders across the world. Make us a people of renewed imagination, able to turn our memories of endings into a story of new beginnings.
I am Catholic, and I like how they incorporated each religion, Jewish and Muslim. They had each prayer service or prayer reading for that. I'm from New York City originally, so I actually did live in Battery Park City previous to 9/11, and it's very moving ceremony in general, very touching, and I know people who were affected by 9/11, so definitely very somber, but also very moving. Richmond did a good job of having the ceremony and spreading the word and letting people know that there was a ceremony if you wanted to attend. Since it's been exactly 10 years, I think every year is equally special. Just to remind us that it has been a while is also important.
Do you guys remember experiencing 9/11?
Yes.
Yeah.
Principal, the big deal was that we were having indoor recess instead of outdoor recess on that day. And obviously in 4th grade that was a huge deal to us. We were pretty angry about it and we were telling everyone, and it didn't hit us obviously until later on in the day when we went home and were with our families and such. And I remember just being really confused as to why like so many people were just making such a big deal. It's scary sometimes to be in Boston taking off from like Logan and just thinking this is where it happened, and that's where I still am now, I guess, with it.
My experience was a little bit different. Being on the West Coast with the time zone difference, I hadn't even gone to school yet. My dad was just about to take me there when we were watching the news, and it happened. And he immediately started making phone calls because we have friends in New York. And I actually never went to school, so I didn't get to talk about it with my classmates till the next day. But it was a terrifying experience just being at home, knowing that, because my dad was making those phone calls, so I knew that people that we knew were in danger, and it was terrifying as a 4th grader because I didn't even know like the magnitude of what it was, but it looked horrific on the news.
Do you guys feel like it's been 10 years?
It's hard to say because that's one day that you just remember so vividly, even though like we were obviously so young at the time and didn't understand it. It's weird to think that you can remember everything exactly what you were doing on that day when any other day you can't, even though you don't understand it at the time and what's going on. So
it definitely doesn't feel like 10 years. Not at all. I think in any social disaster, natural disaster, you have a time period where you have that united feeling, like Hurricane Katrina. The whole country's thinking about it, an earthquake abroad, or any disaster, but it fades sadly. I wouldn't say we still have that unity. And maybe like at a moment on September 11th when everyone is remembering that day, you get it back, but everyone goes back into the cycle of their lives, the everyday.
How do you feel about it being the 10th anniversary of 9/11?
It's kind of sentimental to me because my dad used to work in the Trade Center. I mean, he's alive, but I'd been in the building, so it was kind of a big loss when it happened. But I think to an extent, it's in the past. I think we should kind of try to leave it behind. Obviously, it was tragic, but what's really the point, in my opinion, in reliving it every year?
I was actually at a class down in MCV on immunology, and I got home and opened my door and turned on the TV and saw the tower. So it was near 12:30, and the phone rang, and my brother called, and he said that his son at Pentagon had survived. My nephew was a lieutenant colonel at the Pentagon, and he was just 40 feet from having been losing many of his comrades. So it has affected everybody, I think. Senseless, but I'm afraid a lot of life is.
How do you feel about it being 10 years later?
I don't see that it's improved, and I'm very disappointed in Congress. I really think that if they don't pull together and help to get our country through the economic crisis, it'll be on their shoulders.
It's still apparent today. Like, do you think it stays in people's minds, and do you think it should, or do you think we should just let it be something in the history books?
Yeah, it's definitely stayed with me. I think it stayed with a lot of people. It's kind of hard to forget something like that. In America, I think it's taken for granted how safe we are, and a lot of places in the world, stuff like that happens all the time. And so for that to have happened, it was unique and it was scary, and it's hard for people who witnessed it to really forget about it. Maybe we should kind of try and move on a little bit, but not forget what happened. Forgive, don't forget type deal.